Admiral Kethfer stood before the massive viewing screen in the council chamber. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights as he looked out at the representatives from 7 different alien worlds. Today marked exactly 10 years since the humans had been defeated. 10 years since their last warship had vanished into the deadly Void Nebula. My fellow council members, Kethfer began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. Today we celebrate a decade of peace. 10 years ago, we faced the greatest threat our galaxy had ever known. The humans and their terrible warship, the Retribution, the other aliens nodded. They all remembered those dark days. The humans had appeared in their galaxy like a plague. At first, they seemed weak, small creatures with soft skin and fragile bones, but they had proven to be the most dangerous enemy any of them had ever faced. Commander. Zixtel of the Arachnid Hegemony clicked her mandibles together nervously. Her insect-like body shifted in her chair as she spoke. The humans were like nothing we had ever seen. They never gave up. Even when we destroyed their homeworld, even when we hunted down their colonies, they kept fighting. Yes, agreed Vorthen Prime, the crystal being whose voice sounded like breaking glass. They had no honor. They used tricks and traps. Fought dirty. They refused to surrender even when they had no chance of winning. Kethfer turned back to the viewing screen. It showed images from the final battle 10 years ago. Hundreds of alien warships surrounding one human vessel at the edge of the Void Nebula. The Retribution had been huge, bigger than any ship the aliens had ever built. Its black hull was covered in scars from 1,000 battles. The Retribution was their last hope, Kethfer continued. For 3 years, that single ship held off all of our combined fleets. It appeared without warning, struck at our supply lines, destroyed our outposts, and vanished before we could respond. The humans called it their guardian angel. We called it a demon. The council chamber fell silent as they watched the old battle. Recordings. The Retribution moved through space like a living thing. It twisted and turned, avoiding the alien weapons with impossible grace. Its own guns fired streams of death that cut through alien ships like they were made of paper. But we cornered it at last, Kethfer said with pride in his voice. 7 fleets working together drove it to the edge of the Void Nebula, where it had nowhere left to run. The Void Nebula was a place of death. The swirling clouds of dark energy and exotic matter destroyed anything that entered. No ship had ever survived passage through the nebula. The strange forces inside tore apart both metal and flesh at the molecular level. The humans had 2 choices, Commander Zixtel added. Surrender and face justice for their crimes, or fly into the nebula and die. They chose death. Vorthen Prime's crystal voice rang with satisfaction. Rather than face the consequences of their actions, they flew straight into the nebula. Sensors tracked them for exactly 17 minutes before the energy storms tore their ship apart. The viewing screen now showed the final moments. Retribution, surrounded and outgunned, had turned toward the swirling darkness of the nebula. The human ship had accelerated straight into the chaotic energy storms. For a brief time, the alien sensors had tracked its path, then nothing. The ship had simply vanished into the deadly clouds. So ended the human threat, Kethfer declared. With their last warship destroyed and their species extinct, we were finally free to build a better galaxy. The years that followed had indeed been good for the alien races. They had divided up the human territories among themselves. The Zilonians had claimed Earth and the core human worlds, stripping them of their advanced technology. The Arachnids had taken over the agricultural colonies, turning them into vast breeding grounds for their young. The Vorthens had absorbed the mining worlds, using them to grow new crystal cities. Other races had taken their share as well. The bird-like Kavari had claimed the human research stations. The slug-like Barathi had converted human cities into their slime pools. The mechanical Nexus had recycled human factories into new production facilities. The gaseous ethereals had turned human atmospheric processors into breeding grounds for their spores. We have built something beautiful from the ashes of human civilization, Kethfer continued. Our alliance has brought order to chaos. Trade flows freely between our worlds. Wars between our species have ended. We have achieved what the humans never could understand: true cooperation. But even as he spoke these words, something was happening far away in the depths of space. At the very edge of the galaxy, where the void nebula churned with its deadly energies, old automated beacons were coming to life. Beacons that had been silent for 10 years were suddenly transmitting again. The signals were weak and hard to detect. They broadcast on frequencies that the alien races had forgotten, the old human emergency channels. The transmissions were simple, just repeating identification codes and location markers. But if anyone had been listening carefully, they would have noticed something strange about these signals. They were not coming from the human territories that the aliens had conquered. They were not coming from the dead worlds where human civilization had once flourished. Instead, these signals were broadcasting from the heart of the void nebula itself. From a place where nothing should be able to survive, deep within those swirling clouds of death, something had been waiting, something had been watching, something had been planning. But the aliens in their celebration did not know this. They continued their speeches about peace and prosperity. They congratulated themselves on defeating humanity. They believed their victory was complete and final. They were wrong. In the darkness of the nebula, old engines were beginning to hum with power. Weapon systems that had been silent for a decade were coming online. And somewhere in that impossible place where death itself ruled, a voice whispered through the dark. Time to go home. Captain Mordock checked his scanner readings for the third time. His patrol squadron was deep in the Outer Rim territories, far from any major trade routes. This region had once been human space, but now it belonged to the Zolonian Empire. Most of the worlds here were empty now, stripped of anything valuable years ago. "Sir, we are detecting illegal salvage operations in Sector 7, reported his communications officer. The young Zolonian's blue skin was pale with worry. 3 ships, unknown registry. They appear to be scavenging old human wrecks. Sighed. Salvage hunters were always coming out here looking for leftover human technology. Most of them were harmless scavengers trying to make a living. But some were dangerous pirates who would attack patrol ships if cornered. Set course for Sector 7, Mordock ordered. Signal the other ships to follow. We will investigate these salvagers and send them on their way." His squadron consisted of 3 Zolonian cruisers. They were not the biggest ships in the fleet, but they were fast and well-armed, more than enough to handle a few civilian salvage vessels. Mordock had been patrolling these empty regions for 5 years without any serious trouble. The squadron jumped to hyperspace and emerged near the salvage site 20 minutes later. Mordock expected to find small civilian ships picking through the wreckage of an old human convoy. Instead, his sensors showed something that made his blood run cold. "Sir," the scanner operator whispered, "I am reading one ship. But this is not a salvage vessel." On the main screen, a ship unlike anything Mordock had ever seen hung motionless in space. It was sleek and dark, about the size of a destroyer, but its design was completely unknown. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Strange energy patterns danced across its surface. "What is that thing?" Mordock asked. "Run it through the database. Find out what race builds ships like." The computer worked for several long minutes before responding. No match found in any known ship registry. Design does not correspond to any known species. Mordock felt a chill run down his spine. In his years of service, he had seen ships from every race in the galaxy, but this vessel was something new. Something that should not exist. "Sir, the unknown ship is hailing us," the communications officer reported. "They are transmitting on an old frequency. Very old. Put them through," Mordock ordered. The main screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing the strange ship, it now displayed text in perfect Zolonian script. But the words that appeared made Mordock's heart stop beating. "Greetings, Captain Mordock of the Zolonian 4th Patrol Squadron. Ship registration ZEL4471. Your service record shows participation in the siege of New Geneva Colony, the bombardment of Terra Nova, and the massacre at Haven Station. You have been found guilty of war crimes against humanity." Mordock stared at the screen in shock. Those battles had happened years ago, during the war with the humans. How could this unknown ship know about his service record? How did it even know his name? "Who are you?" Mordok demanded. "Identify yourself." New text appeared on the screen. "This is the human vessel Nemesis. You have 30 seconds to abandon." "Ship before we open fire?" "Human vessel." Mordok laughed, though his voice was shaky. "Impossible. All human ships were destroyed years ago. There are no humans left." The response came immediately. 25 seconds. Mordok turned to his weapons officer. "Target that ship and prepare to fire." This is obviously some kind of trick. But before the weapons officer could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting cast eerie red shadows. "Across the bridge, sir," the scanner operator shouted. "Unknown ship just vanished. I am reading no energy signature, no mass, nothing." "That is impossible," Mordok said. "Ships cannot just disappear." Then the ship reappeared. But now it was directly in front of them, so close that it filled the entire viewing screen. Mordok could see details on its hull that should not exist. The metal surface seemed to be alive, flowing and changing like water. "Time expired" appeared on the communications screen. What happened next lasted only 30 seconds. But Mordok would remember every detail for the rest of his life. The human ship fired a single beam of pure white energy. The beam passed through his ship's shields like they were not even there, cut through the hull plating like a hot knife through butter. The beam struck the reactor room with surgical precision. Instead of causing a massive explosion, it somehow contained the energy. Release. The ship's power simply died, leaving them floating helpless in space. But the human ship was not finished. It fired again and again, each shot perfectly aimed. It destroyed the weapon systems without damaging life support. It disabled the engines. Without killing the crew, it was not trying to destroy them. It was trying to capture them, sir. The communications officer screamed. "The other ships in our squadron? They are gone." Mordok looked at his scanner. The readings showed empty space where his other two cruisers had been moments before. No wreckage. No debris. They had simply vanished. The human ship moved closer. Mordok could see strange symbols carved into its hull. They looked like human writing, but the letters seemed to glow with their own inner light. As he watched, new text appeared on his communications screen. "Captain Mordok, your crew will be spared because they were following orders. But you will answer for your crimes. Prepare to be boarded." "This cannot be happening," Mordok whispered. "The humans are dead. All of them." A section of the human ship's hull began to open like a flower. Something emerged from inside. It looked like a boarding pod, but it moved through space without any visible engines. It approached Mordok's ship and attached itself to the hull. With a soft thud, minutes later, the airlock doors burst open. Instead of human soldiers, mechanical beings entered the ship. They looked like humans in shape, but they were clearly artificial. Their eyes glowed with blue light, and their movements were too perfect, too precise. "Captain Mordok," one of the machines said in perfect Zolonian, "you will come with us. The Retribution wishes to speak with you." "Retribution is dead," Mordok said. "It was destroyed 10 years ago." The machine tilted its head slightly. "The Retribution remembers everything, Captain. Every battle, every crime, every innocent life that was lost. And now it is time for justice." They dragged Mordok away, leaving his crew unharmed, but terrified. The human ship vanished again, taking the captured Zolonian captain with it. When the rescue ships finally arrived 3 days later, they found only empty space and a terrified crew with an impossible story. But across the galaxy, similar encounters were beginning to happen. Ships that should not exist were appearing without warning. They struck with precision and vanished like ghosts. And always they left the same. Message burned into nearby asteroids. Retribution remembers. Admiral Kethfer stood in the war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing ship movements across the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations where mysterious attacks had occurred. The pattern was clear and terrifying. Someone was hunting them, report, Kethfer ordered as Commander Zixtel entered the room. The arachnid's multiple eyes were wide with fear. 12 more attacks in the past week, Zixtel clicked nervously. 3 arachnid trade convoys, 4 Vorthon crystal farms, 2 Kavari research stations, and 3 more Zilonian patrol squadrons. All destroyed or missing. Survivors? Kethfer asked, though he already knew the answer. Only when the attackers want there to be survivors, Zixtel replied. They always leave someone alive to tell the story. And always the same message. Kethfer nodded grimly. Every attack site had the same words burned into nearby rocks or metal debris. The Retribution remembers. The message was written in the old human language, carved deep enough to last forever. How many ships are we facing? Asked Vorthon Prime, whose crystal body flickered with nervous energy. Our best estimate is for vessels, reported the intelligence officer. The Nemesis, which we encountered first. The Vindication, which destroyed the Kavari stations. The Reckoning, which hit our supply depot at Kepler 7. And something called Judgment, which wiped out an entire arachnid breeding facility. For ships, Kethfer repeated. For ships are terrorizing the entire galaxy. But they were not ordinary ships. The reports from survivors all told the same impossible story. Ships that could appear and disappear at will. Weapons that passed through shields like they were not there. Holes that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Most disturbing of all, the ships seemed to know everything about their targets. They know our names, whispered Captain Veltar, one of the few survivors. From the recent attacks, they know our service records, our families, our crimes. When the Vindication attacked my convoy, it spoke to each of us personally. It listed every human colony I had helped destroy, every city I had bombed. How is that possible, Queen Mother? Zekthara, of the Arachnid Hegemony, had been studying the captured data from the attacks. Her massive insect body dominated one end of the war room. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had lived for over 300 years. I have analyzed the energy signatures from these attacks, she announced. The weapons these ships use are not normal matter. They appear to be made of the same exotic particles found in the Void Nebula. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Void Nebula was a place of death where the laws of physics broke down. Nothing could survive in there. Nothing except. Think the Retribution is still alive? Kethfer asked. I think something happened to it in that nebula, Zekthar replied. Something that changed it into something else. Admiral Kethfer made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Assemble the largest fleet we can manage. Every available ship from every member species. We will hunt down these human ghosts and destroy them once and for all. Within 2 weeks, the largest military force in galactic history had gathered at the edge of former human space. 500 warships from 7 different species, all armed with the most advanced weapons available. Surely this would be enough. To destroy 4 enemy vessels, no matter how advanced they were, the fleet moved in formation toward the last known location of the human ships. Admiral Kethfer commanded from his flagship the massive dreadnought Eternal Victory. Around him, alien captains from across the galaxy prepared for what they believed would be a quick and decisive battle. They found the human ships waiting for them. The 4 vessels hung, motionless in space, arranged in a perfect diamond formation. They made no attempt to hide or run. Instead, they seemed to be waiting patiently for the alien fleet to arrive. All ships prepare to attack, Kethfer ordered. Target the nearest enemy vessel and fire at will. 500 alien warships opened. Fire at once. The space between the fleets filled with energy beams, missiles, and plasma bursts. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon raged toward thee. For human ships, and then something impossible happened. The human ships simply faded away, not destroyed, not vaporized, but faded like ghosts. The massive alien attack passed harmlessly. Through empty space, sensors showed nothing. Ships had become invisible. Where did they go? Kethfer shouted. The answer came a moment later when alarms began screaming throughout the fleet. The human ships had reappeared, but now they were scattered throughout the alien formation. One materialized directly above Kethfer's flagship, Another appeared in the middle of a squadron of arachnid destroyers. The third emerged from inside, a Vorthan crystal ship, somehow occupying the same space. What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The human ships moved through the alien fleet like dancers performing a deadly ballet. They phased in and out of reality, appearing just long enough to fire their weapons before vanishing again. Their shots were perfectly aimed, striking vital systems with surgical precision. But they were not trying to destroy the alien fleet. Instead, they seemed to be playing with it. Ships lost their weapons, but kept their life support. Engines failed, but hulls remained intact. It was as if the humans were sending a message. We could kill you all, but we choose not to. Commander Zixtel watched in horror as her ship's weapon system simply stopped working. Sir, they are not trying to kill us. They are disabling us. Why? Kethfer demanded. What do they want? The answer came as a voice that echoed through every ship in the fleet simultaneously. It was a human voice, female, speaking in perfect galactic standard. We want you to understand, the voice said. For 10 years you have celebrated our death. You have divided our worlds among yourselves. You have erased our history and claimed our achievements as your own. But we are not dead. We have been watching. We have been waiting. We have been preparing. The voice paused, and in that silence, every alien in the fleet felt the weight of their crimes. This is not revenge, the voice continued. This is justice. You will return what you have stolen. You will restore what you have destroyed. You will answer for what you have done. The age of your dominance is over. Age of human justice has begun. The human ships vanished again, leaving behind a fleet of disabled vessels and a message that would shake the galaxy to its core. Admiral Kethfer stared at his dead instruments and realized that everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity had returned. The emergency council meeting brought together the greatest military minds from across the galaxy. Representatives from every major species crowded into the secure chamber on the neutral world of Concordia. Fear filled the air like a poisonous gas. The humans had made their point clear. They were back, and they were unstoppable. Admiral Kethfer limped into the chamber, his arms still in a healing cast from the last encounter. Half his fleet had been disabled, their crews stranded in dead ships for days before rescue arrived. The other half had fled in panic. The greatest military force in galactic history had been defeated by 4 ships without losing a single human life. We need a new strategy, Queen Mother Zekthera announced. Her massive insect body dominated the center of the room. These human ships are beyond our ability to fight using conventional means. It's conventional means, laughed General Krekstar of the Kavari bitterly. His bird-like features were ruffled with anger. Nothing about this situation is conventional. These ships appear and disappear like ghosts. They phase through solid matter. Their weapons ignore our shields completely. Vorthan Prime's crystal body flickered with nervous energy. The energy readings from their attacks are impossible. They are using forces that should not exist in normal space. But even as they debated their options, something was happening outside the chamber. The security guards posted around the building suddenly found their weapons would not fire. The electronic locks on the doors simply stopped working. The communication systems went dead. Then the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, casting the chamber in dim red light. But when the council members looked up at the main viewing screen, they gasped in shock. A massive ship hung in the sky above the capital city. It was enormous. Easily 3 times the size of the largest alien dreadnought. The ship was black as space itself, but energy patterns danced across its hull like living lightning. Scars from countless battles marked its surface, but they had been transformed into something beautiful and terrible. This was not just a warship. This was a monument to human endurance. The Retribution, whispered Admiral Kethfer. The ship that was supposed to have died 10 years ago now floated above them like a dark angel. But it was not the same vessel that had vanished into the void nebula. This ship had grown. It had evolved. It had become something beyond the understanding of normal technology. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere at once, echoing through the chamber, the building, the entire city. It was a human voice, female, but changed by 10 years of fusion. With alien energies, I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Retribution. I address the Council of Worlds and demand an accounting for your crimes. The council members looked at each other in terror. Captain Chen had been humanity's greatest military leader during the war. She had been declared dead when the Retribution vanished. How was she still alive? That is impossible, Kethfer said aloud. Captain Chen died 10 years ago when her ship was destroyed in the Void Nebula. I did not die, Admiral, the voice replied, and somehow it seemed to be speaking directly to him. I evolved. My ship and I became something new, something better. We survived what you believed would kill us. We learned from what you thought would destroy us. The viewing screen changed. Instead of showing the ship, it now displayed images from the past. The council watched in growing horror as scenes from the human war played out before them. They saw human cities burning under alien bombardment. They saw refugee ships being hunted down and destroyed. They saw the systematic extermination of an entire species. You told your people that humans were the aggressors, Captain Chen's voice continued. You said we were a threat that had to be eliminated. But we know the truth. We have recovered the records. We have found the evidence. The images changed again. They showed the real beginning of the war. Peaceful human exploration ships, making first contact with alien civilizations. Human diplomats trying to establish trade agreements. Human scientists sharing their knowledge freely, and then they showed the alien response. Unprovoked attacks on human colonies. The destruction of peaceful settlements. The hunting of human ships for sport. The decision by the Council of Worlds to eliminate humanity before they could become a threat. We sought only friendship, Captain Chen said. We offered trade, knowledge, cooperation. He responded with genocide. Quit, mother, Zekthera tried to speak, but found her voice would not work. None of them could speak. The ship above them was controlling everything, even their ability to communicate. For 10 years you have divided our worlds among yourselves, the voice continued. You have erased our cities and built your own on top of our graves. You have claimed our discoveries as your own achievements. You have told your children that humans never existed. The images on the screen now showed the aftermath of the war. Earth, once a beautiful blue and green world, now stripped bare and turned into a Zolonian industrial center. Human colonies converted into alien breeding grounds. Human research stations, pumped full of toxic gas to serve the ethereals. But we did not die in that nebula, Captain Chen said. We learned. We grew, became something beyond your ability to destroy. And we have spent these 10 years not just surviving, but preparing. Ship above them began to change. Sections of its hull opened like flowers, revealing glimpses of vast spaces within. But these were not empty cargo holds or weapon bays. They were filled with light and life. You believe you exterminated humanity, the voice said. You are wrong. We have been rebuilding our species in the depths of the nebula, protected by technology you cannot understand, guided by wisdom you cannot imagine. Admiral Kethfer finally found his voice. What do you want from us? Justice came the immediate reply. Those who ordered the genocide will face trial. Those who carried out the murders will answer for their crimes. Those who profited from our death will return what they have stolen. And if we refuse, asked General Krekstar. The lights in the chamber flickered, and when they stabilized, the image on the screen had changed once more. It now showed dozens of ships emerging from the darkness of space, just the 4 vessels they had encountered before, but an entire fleet of impossible human warships. Then you will face the consequences, Captain Chen replied. We are no longer the weak species you destroyed 10 years ago. We have become something new, something that will ensure genocide never happens again to any species anywhere in this galaxy. The ship above them began to move away, but the voice continued to echo through the chamber. You have 3 days to decide. Submit to justice willingly, or face the judgment of a humanity reborn. Choose wisely. This is the only offer you will receive. The Retribution vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a council of terrified aliens and a galaxy that would never be the same. The age of alien dominance was ending. The age of human justice had begun. And in the depths of space, more ships continued to emerge from the void nebula, carrying with them the hope of a species that had refused to die. 3 days passed like 3 years. Across the galaxy, alien governments held emergency meetings. Military leaders prepared for war while diplomats searched for peaceful solutions. Everyone knew that humanity had returned, and this time they held all the power. Admiral Kethfer stood alone in his private quarters, staring out at the stars. His hand shook as he held a message pad containing his final orders. The Zolonian High Command had made their decision. They would fight rather than submit to human justice. "Admiral," his aide announced over the intercom, "the human ships have appeared. They are requesting to speak with you personally." Kethfer walked slowly to his bridge. On the main screen, he saw the Retribution hanging in space like a dark monument. Smaller human ships surrounded it, their hulls gleaming with strange energy. They did not look like machines of war anymore. They looked like something alive. "Admiral Kethfer," Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge. "I am disappointed but not surprised by your government's decision to fight. However, I am offering you a personal choice. You can follow your orders and die with your ship, or you can choose a different path." "What path?" Kethfer asked. "The path of truth," Chen replied. "Face trial for your crimes. Accept responsibility for what you have done. Help us build something better from the ashes of the old galaxy." Kethfer looked around his bridge. His crew watched him with fear in their eyes. These were good soldiers who had followed his orders without question. They did not deserve to die for the crimes of their leaders. "What happens to my crew if I surrender?" he asked. "They will be judged by their own actions," Chen answered. "Those who committed no crimes will go free. Those who followed illegal orders under threat will face light punishment. Only those who chose evil freely will face severe consequences." Kethfer made his choice. He walked to his command chair and transmitted his surrender to the human fleet. Around the galaxy, other commanders made similar decisions. Some chose to fight and died quickly. Others chose truth and lived to see a new dawn. But the real surprise came from an unexpected source. Princess Zilkara of the Arachnid hegemony, youngest daughter of Queen Mother Zekthera, transmitted a message to the human fleet. "Captain Chen," her young voice carried across space. "I was not born when the war began. I had no part in the genocide of your people. But I have studied the records. I know what my species did was wrong. I ask permission to speak for those of us who want to make things right." The response came quickly. "Permission granted, Princess. What do you propose?" "Let me help you rebuild," Zilkara said. "Let my generation work with yours to create the galaxy that should have existed from the beginning. We cannot undo the past, but we can build a better future."
"Captain."
Chen's reply surprised everyone. "Your offer is accepted. Come aboard the Retribution. Let us talk." The princess's small ship approached the massive human vessel. As it drew near, something amazing happened. The Retribution's hull opened like a flower, revealing spaces filled with light and growing things. It was not just a warship anymore. It was a living city. Inside the ship, Princess Zilkara met Captain Sarah Chen face to face. But Chen was no longer entirely human. Her body showed signs of her decade-long fusion with the ship and the energies of the Void Nebula. She was something new, something that bridged the gap between flesh and energy, between human and machine. "You have grown," Zilkara observed. "We all have," Chen replied. "The question is whether we have grown wise enough to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past." Over the following weeks, a new order began to take shape. The human fleet did not conquer the galaxy as the aliens had feared. Instead, they offered something different. Justice, yes, but also mercy for those who sought it. War criminals faced trial and punishment. Those who had directly participated in genocide were exiled to the dead worlds they had created. But those who chose to accept responsibility and work for peace were given a chance to rebuild. The Zolonian Empire was dissolved. Its territories returned to their original inhabitants or left empty as memorials to the dead. The arachnid breeding facilities on former human worlds were shut down, and the planets began the long process of ecological restoration. But the most amazing sight was yet to come. Deep in the heart of the Void Nebula, where death itself was supposed to rule, the first human colony ships began to emerge. They were escorted by the Retribution and its fleet, but these were not warships. These were vessels full of families, children, hope. The ships that emerged were beautiful beyond description. They had been built using technology that combined human engineering with the exotic properties of the nebula itself. They could travel through space without engines, powered by the same forces that had transformed the Retribution. Admiral Kethfer, now serving his sentence as a worker in the restoration efforts, watched in amazement as the human colony ships passed overhead. Children pressed their faces to the viewing ports, seeing the galaxy for the first time. Their parents pointed out stars and planets, telling stories of the worlds they would build. "How many survived?" Kethfer asked Captain Chen during one of their regular meetings. "More than you killed," Chen replied simply. "When the Retribution entered the nebula, we were not alone. Other human ships had hidden there over the years. Refugees, survivors, those who refused to give up hope. We found them. We saved them. We gave them time to heal and grow. And now we return to take our place in the galaxy. Yes. Not as conquerors, but as guardians. We will make sure that what happened to us never happens to any other species." The new galactic government was unlike anything that had existed before. Humans took leadership roles, but they shared power with aliens who had proven their commitment to peace and justice. Princess Zilkara became one of the first alien ambassadors to the new human colonies. The Retribution and its fleet remained as protectors, watching over the galaxy with eyes that had seen the worst of what intelligent species could do to each other. Captain Chen, now something beyond human but still fundamentally human in her heart, became the guardian of galactic peace. Years passed. The scars of the old war slowly healed. New worlds were settled by mixed populations of humans and aliens working together. Children grew up learning the true history of the galaxy, the mistakes that had been made, and the vigilance needed to prevent them from happening again. And in the depths of space, the Retribution continued its eternal watch, ensuring that never again would the strong prey upon the weak without consequence. The age of human justice had begun, and it would last as long as the stars themselves burned in the darkness.